Hi, I'm Henry Edney, General Manager of MAXRaft. Thanks for watching our update on the new building code, effective from May 2023 now, and the MAXRaft products that we have available. In this video, I'll talk about the changes to the code, what they mean, and how you can use our thermal modelling to work out which slab you need for your home. The second half is focused of the video is focused on specifying MAXRaft products, how to find the right one for your project, and I will also touch on the cost differences, sustainability, and how we go about supplying our product. There were more than 700 submissions in relation to changing the building code, which is more than the previous 5 years of building code consultation combined. So although I think these changes have caused challenges for some, I think we can safely say that the country is ready and in support of better building codes and healthier buildings. So what's changed? So the country is now split into 6 climate zones from 3, and the requirements of the new building code are zone specific. So there's been changes to a few elements of the building, as you can see here. However, for today, we're simply focusing on the floors. So as highlighted, we now require R1.5 in climate zones 1 to 4, 1.6 in climate zone 5, and R1.7 in climate zone 6. So you now need to calculate the internal area perimeter ratio of the building to be able to determine your R value for the slab, and you need to be able to obviously match that to your climate zone. So I'll show you how to calculate the internal area perimeter ratio shortly. Where underfloor heating is specified, the R values have further increased. So for climate zones 1 to 3, the R value is now 2.5. Climate zone 4 is 2.8, and climate zone 5 you need R3, where you have underfloor heating specified in the slab. So to actually comply with the building code for all the elements that have changed, you can do this in one of 3 ways. There's the schedule method, the calculation method, or the building performance method. The schedule method is pretty simple. Essentially, you're choosing just to comply with the requirement for each element of the new building code as set out by MB. The calculation method, you can use higher and lower R values in different elements of the building, offset against each other. So you may have higher in the floor, lower in the walls, etc. And then there's a good calculator to actually calculate this on the New Zealand Green Building Council website. And once you've entered all the information, it essentially tells you whether you comply or not. And then the building performance method is the most advanced method. It's more complex, requires you to input more information, but it is designed to give you the best outcome. So you can use one of those 3 methods to determine whether you comply with the requirements of the new code. So before we actually look at the thermal modelling, I just want to give you a brief overview of the products that MAXRaft offers. All of these which are contained in the thermal modelling document, which is on our website. So we have 4 key products: MAXLab, MAXRaft, MAXRaft Plus, and MAX85. MAXLab is for good ground. MAXRaft and MAXRaft Plus are typically designed on softer ground, and MAX85 can be on good ground or soft ground, but is very climate zone specific. MAXRaft Plus is an adaptation of our standard MAXRaft option and is designed to work with the new R value requirements for underfloor heating where you're on soft ground. So starting with MAXLab, which is a very popular product of ours and is only used on good ground. So MAXLab has sheets of insulation instead of pods, so it's not like a traditional raft floor. It has superior R values, and it has our patented L-shape perimeter insulation product around the outside, as do all of our designs. And we now refer to this perimeter insulation as MAX 189EX. So you'll see that on plans. The standard heights of a max slab are 250, 300, 350 and 400 mil. So how that works is, as standard, we have a 100 mil slab, and the insulation underneath on a 250 would be 150 mil thick or 200 mil thick on a 300, and so on. The height of this, though, can be adjusted. Say, for example, you need a 120 mil slab, then we just adapt the insulation underneath. MAXRaft is a great option with or without underfloor heating if you're on good ground. So pictured here is just an example of an external MAXRaft corner. All our products feature external corners, pre-cut, whatever the height is, and it just makes the installation of the perimeter insulation really easy on site. And it just butts straight into the rest of the insulation, just like this picture here. So we have standard details for each product, and all of our standard details are shown on our website under the resources section. This is an example here of a typical MAXRaft 300. You can see you've got 90 mil frame and 140 mil frame. Where you have 140 mil frame, we increase the insulation, just as you've got a little bit more concrete around that with your wider frame. And so we've tested our hold down fixings for 90 mil frame with brands, and that information is all available online. MAXRaft and MAXRaft Plus, as I mentioned earlier, are very similar in their design. Both are typically specified on soft soils, so TC2, expansive soil, where you may have piles, or just 200 kPa ground. The standard heights for MAXRaft products are 320 and 400 mil. However, again, these can be adapted to allow for 120 mil slabs, say you've got underfloor heating on mesh or polished concrete. And they can even be adjusted to be 600 mil high if required. We've done lots of slabs in Christchurch where they needed to be further out of the ground, so it's easily adaptable. The main difference between a MAXRaft and a MAXRaft Plus is that the waffle pods in a MAXRaft are swapped out, and a MAXRaft Plus has solid insulation to give you that higher R value to meet the new requirements with underfloor heating. Both of them have insulation right around the perimeter, in between all the pods, in the ribs and in the thickenings. So here's our standard details for a MAXRaft or a MAXRaft Plus. The reinforcing just gets adjusted depending on the ground conditions. Every MAXRaft product or MAXRaft is an engineered design, so your design is always specific to your site and your build. Just like with a MAXRaft, if you've got the wider frame, then we increase the insulation, which does also increase your R value a little bit as well. Okay, so Max 85, we call it the easiest and most cost-effective way to meet the new building code. So the standard heights for a Max 85 are 305 and 385, just like similar to a typical raft floor. Again, you can customize this. It's a great solution for climate zones 1 to 4, and can be used in other climate zones once your area perimeter ratio is 2.2 or more. It's essentially a raft floor with our MAXRaft perimeter insulation around the edge to give you that thermal break. Okay, so I touched earlier that you would need the to get your R value, you'll need the internal area perimeter ratio of the building first, and then you essentially need to match that to the chart in the thermal modeling. So first thing is find the thermal modeling, the product you wish to specify, and then calculate the area perimeter ratio of the building. So for example, with MAXRaft, we find that the average area perimeter ratio of a building in NZ is around 2.4. So you can see here, the matching chart for a MAXRaft 300 would give you an R value of 3.54. So to calculate the internal area perimeter ratio, say for example, you've got a building that's 170 square meters, the perimeter is 62. So you firstly work out the external area perimeter ratio. So divide 170 by 62 gives you an external AP ratio of 2.74. Now, then depending on whether you have 140mm frame or 90mm frame, we need to do the following calculation to get the internal area perimeter ratio. So for 140mm, you would extend that calculation by halving the wall thickness and minusing that figure from the external area perimeter ratio. So you can see here on this slide that when we do that, the calculation for your internal area perimeter ratio for a 140mm wall becomes 2.67 and 90mm is 2.69. So they are the numbers that you need to use when you go to the thermal modeling chart. Okay, so our thermal modeling document is available on our website under the resources section. It was completed by MAXRaft and Sustainable Engineering Limited. All of our thermal modeling is based on the use of EPS insulation rather than XPS. As a company, we prefer to use EPS as it's manufactured in New Zealand and we're able to recycle it easily, use recycled content in the product. XPS is obviously an imported product, isn't recyclable, and is a bit more expensive. It does have a slightly higher R value, and we do use it in some instances, for example, where if it's required on a certified passive house or a high home star rated project, but the majority of our projects will use EPS polystyrene. So taking a look at the thermal modeling document, so obviously there's a contents page early on and it breaks out each section, so MAXLab, MAXRaft, MAX85 and MAXRaft Plus. Each section also has a chart for where brick rebate is specified. So with brick rebate, it's important just to be mindful that there's obviously different ways. You could have a brick rebate or you could have the brick go past the slab down onto a footing underneath. Obviously that would give you a higher R value than where you have brick rebate. We've got lots of details for this again on our website that you can download. The summary R value table has all the info in one place. So if you don't want to have to read through all the charts and you know your internal area perimeter ratio, then you could just go straight to the summary R value table, look at the line item for your product and match it to your internal ratio, and then that will give you your R value. So each slab type has its own chart. Example here of a max slab. Again, you can see that R value is 3.54. Like I said, max slab gives very high R values and is for good ground. A max slab 350, which is typically designed on more passive homes or homes that are looking to achieve real high performance, that further increases the R value and has a thicker polystyrene sheet under the slab. And you look at MAXRaft 320, so typically designed for softer ground, easily meets the building code requirements. And then MAXRaft 320 Plus, which is very similar, but obviously the R value increases over 3 at 2.4 so that you can use it with underfloor heating if specified. And the same essentially applies to MAXRaft 400, which is typically used on TC2 type soils or highly expansive soils up in Auckland. Again, easily meets the building code. Swap it out to a MAXRaft Plus if you need to meet the new requirements for underfloor heating. Each product also shows the FRSI value, which is useful for projects that are being Homestar certified. You can see here that the internal temperature of this slab is over 15 degrees and you've got an FRSI of 0.77. So just to recap around the changes in the thermal modelling. So the R value has increased to between 1.5 to 1.7, depending on which climate zone you're in. Where underfloor heating is specified, this increases to between 2.5 and 3, again, dependent on the climate zone. To calculate the whole building performance, there are 3 calculation methods: schedule method, calculation method, or the building performance index. And the first thing you need to know is what is your internal area perimeter ratio, and then you can compare that to the thermal modelling chart and find out what your R value is for that product. Okay, so looking at how you actually go about choosing and specifying a MAXRaft product. So the first thing you need to do essentially is decide which MAXRaft product you need. So obviously you can do that by contacting us. We've also built are building a product selection tool on our website, which should be live not long after this video. And we're also releasing a MAXRaft handbook, and the handbook goes in line with the thermal modelling which teaches you, hey, I'm on this ground, I'm in this location, I need this MAXRaft product. So both of those will be available very soon. Once you know which product you need, you can get all the PDF or CAD details from our website. If you can't find something, just contact MAXRaft. You can send your quotes to us to get your pricing. And typically we complete the engineering design via our own engineers. However, any chartered engineer can complete the design for you. So we work with those engineers. So if you've got an engineer that's not done it before, we're more than happy to speak with them and take them through the design process and send them any details that they might need. Once you've submitted for consent, it's always good to finalise your quote just in case there's material changes, especially in the current world. And then you order the product. Now, so we have 2 ways that we work: supply or supply and install. And shortly I'll show you just a little bit more about how that works. So choosing the right product. So along with the handbook that will be available on time, I just want to share with you a function that we are building at the moment. Essentially, by answering 4 questions, our product selection tool will determine which MAXRaft product is suitable for your site. Essentially, it will look like this. It's currently called the product finder. You put in what are your ground conditions, what's your internal area perimeter ratio, are you specifying underfloor heating, what's your climate zone. Once you've done those things, it would come up with the result. And for example, here it says the most cost-effective option is to do a max 85. However, it may also give you 2 options. So you may say, hey, you can do a max 85, but if you want better R values, then you can do a MAXLab 300 or a MAXLab 350. So we think this is going to be a great tool and a really easy way for people to know which MAXRaft product is suitable for their project. So again, we're targeting that being available in the next couple of weeks. Along with that, we're also launching I've just launched another page called Find an Installer. So MAXRaft does supply only or supply and install. The idea with this search engine is that once you've completed your engineering design, you can go to a local contractor and they can give you a price for supply and install. Again, as a company, we do this, but we encourage people where they already have a contractor they work with to use those contractors to install the slab. It does not need to always be installed by MAXRaft. So up the top right of our website is the installer tab. If you click on that tab, essentially it takes you through to a search engine. Once you put in the locations, it will filter that and then give you up to 3 contractors that you can contact for that location to get a price for supply and install. As I say, it's best to do that once you've completed your engineering design. So come to us if you've got any questions about how to use it. And if you're a slab company or contractor that wants to install them, just make contact with us because we're always looking to build more relationships. Okay, so touching on cost, so like anything, obviously these changes to the whole building will impact the building cost. In the current market, a MAXRaft product is around 15% more than a standard raft floor. However, it's important to note that with the new code and when you specify a product like a MAXRaft, you're getting continuous insulation throughout the slab. With a standard raft pod floor or plastic pod floor, you're not getting insulation. There's typically no insulation in the ribs, in the thickenings, or around the perimeter. You're getting a void former that might just be 98% air, and you have thermal bridging and heat loss throughout the slab. So the difference to the performance and the health of the building is substantial. And when the slabs are properly insulated, and it's going to prevent that 15% approximately heat loss of the entire building that you lose out of the foundation. So we think the cost benefit significantly outweighs, the performance significantly outweighs the increased cost, should I say. Okay, so using polystyrene in the most sustainable way is obviously a very important thing for us. We know that people have different views on polystyrene, but as a building product and insulator, it's a fantastic product. Over the years, we've worked with our suppliers to improve the process we go through. So now all of our polystyrene materials are pre-cut in the factory, and recycled content is used, or recycled polystyrene is used in all of our products. All of the sheets of insulation in a MAXLab are pre-cut. Any pods in a MAXRaft, MAXRaft Plus or Max 85 all come to site pre-cut and easy to install by following one of our panel plans, which I'll show you in a moment. Because of the factory cutting that we do, we have clean waste in the factory, and it makes the recycling process simple. And if there is any leftover polystyrene on site, then it's collected and taken back to the local factory. So we work with suppliers who are able to deliver in the closest area. So if you're in Auckland, it comes out of Auckland, and so forth. So taking a look at one of our panel plans. So this is a MAXLab panel plan. So this nests the amount of polystyrene that's required in the slab. As I mentioned before, all the sheets of insulation in the MAXLab are pre-cut, making it really easy to piece together, just like a jigsaw puzzle. And you can see that here that you've got a red perimeter and a blue perimeter. So that might be, for example, where you have brick rebaked. So some of the insulation will come pre-cut down so that the builder doesn't have to cut the polystyrene edge down on site, making it nice and easy to install. And you can see in the corner where there's the green, that's where the insulation is pre-cut for a shower recess. Same applies for a MAXRaft. So all of the pods are pre-cut in the factory, giving us nice clean materials and making it easy to install. Again, you can see how you've got a couple of showers in there, so those pods will be pre-cut to the right height. And the panel plans also give you the concrete quantity, so that makes it nice and easy to install. And again, if you have any issues with anything like that, you just give us a call. Okay, that's pretty much a wrap for this video. Thank you for taking the time to watch. MAXRaft's always here to help with any questions you have, so please feel free to contact us for anything you need. Thanks very much.